Hi, I'm Dyllan. This is my dog Juniper. This is our van Sunflower, Sunny for short, and we're gonna go have a look inside. This teeny gal is called Biddy for obvious reasons. And a friend of ours found her in a cardboard box on the side of the road and called us to take her in. So I just picked her up recently and we're gonna let her grow and then she'll be ready for adoption. This is entryway. So I could have a more compact stool. This is not the most practical item, but it is sentimental to me, so I really like to use it. It was actually in my dad's house growing up and then was in my grandma's house when I was growing up, and I got to inherit it, and it needs some refurbishing. It's kind of held together right now, but I really like to use that. So that's a good step up into the van, and then I also can use it as like a little seat when I'm sitting outside. So this is my kitchen area. These lower cabinets are the only thing in the van that I bought prefab. I bought these from Lowe's. All of my upper cabinets and all of my other furniture and finishes are custom done by me with a little help from my family. So these upper cabinets, I use this one for mostly dry food storage. I think I'm gonna invest in like some smaller storage solutions from probably the Container Store. And I use like industrial strength Velcro to actually hold the cabinet closed when I'm driving, and then also to hold it up to the ceiling when it's in use. And I didn't know if that would be strong enough, but so far it's held up really well. And then this is just the other half of the kitchen uppers. Some dishes, a little bit of dog food, dog care stuff. This backsplash is basically like the tile version of wallpaper. It's just a stick-on tile. I invested in a Berkey to ensure that I would have safe water for myself and the dogs, regardless of the source. Right now, since I am mostly in town in Moab, I have pretty reliable water sources. So sometimes I take this into my office at work and use it in there rather than having it here in the van. I have a fair amount of counter space and I don't have a permanently installed stove, so I was able to kind of use that space for a big sink instead. I really, really like having a big sink. I was worried that I would regret using all that space, but it's great. It can hold a lot of dishes, so it does allow me to kind of pile my dishes up. So the countertop is actually a piece of what was scrap plywood that was left over from plywood I used elsewhere in the van. But this one was just left over, and I actually just cut it to size and put it in, intending to be a temporary solution while I decided what else I wanted to use as a countertop, be it butcher block or something else. But I have now actually really liked it, and I think I'm just gonna keep it until it can't hold up anymore. I have a couple just like personal items here. I found this at one of my favorite camp spots south of town recently. This is a little plant that my mom gave me for Valentine's Day. It's really on its last legs, sorry mom, but I like to have it there. This is some art from a recent trip to Alaska. My family and I went up to the Iditarod earlier this year, which was incredible. This is from an artist here in Moab, Riley. She's really cool. Check her out on Instagram. A picture of Juniper that my sister gave to me. So the cabinets were prefab, but I modified them a bit. I custom fitted this drawer so that I could still use it even with my sink here. And I keep my like frequent use daily toiletries in this little drawer. So this is under sink storage. There was a toe kick here in the cabinet and I cut it out so that I could more easily slide my water jugs in and out. So I have 2 jugs for fresh water and then 1 for gray. That's about 15 gallons of fresh water at a time. I also just store like some cleaning supplies down here. This was a gift from my mom for my first like adult apartment, and then it ended up working perfect in here. Also down here are my pee jars, as most van lifers affectionately call them. That works really well for liquid specific bathroom use when I'm not near a public toilet or toilets at work, or a lot of areas around Moab are really fragile ecosystems. So I actually rarely pee outside in the desert in Moab, just to try to leave no trace as much as possible. So this upper drawer is classic like kitchen junk drawer, utility drawer. It really needs a good clean out. But there's everything in here from like tape measure, little miniature battery powered essential oil diffuser, which I love, spare keys, a candle, some card game, scissors, all that type of stuff. And then this second drawer is a ton of dog stuff. The drawer slides are damaged right now, so that one's gonna stay closed, but that's all sorts of dog things. And then this lower drawer is dog food and some more kitchen dishes. My only electrical powered appliance is a coffee grinder, which I store down here. I drink a lot of coffee, both hot and iced, so I put in one swivel. I thought about putting in both swivels, but I realized I really wanted a half wall here to build a little bit of a closet. So this swivels, it's great for if I have more than just me in the van. And then it also creates this really nice little den for Juniper, like back behind the front seat. She has a little den down on the floor where I feel like she can ride more safely when we're driving because she's down below the airbags. I did just grab a cheap curtain and curtain rod. It also is nice. Often I will, when I'm driving, I'll pull this closed because it retains more of the AC up front to keep things more cool for Juniper, and also just as an additional thing to limit road noise from the back of the van for her as well. I installed this little grab handle in particular I have like all ages of family members that spend time in the van with me. And so I wanted a handle and a step to make it easier for them to get in and out. So I have actually 3 like ventilation points in the roof. Ventilation was a top priority for me with having dogs, in particular because I do not have an AC in here other than just the vehicle's AC. So I have 2 max air fans, one in front and one in back, and then a skylight in the middle. It was terrifying to cut 3 massive holes in my roof. That was one of the first things I did on the van. So that was really scary, but actually not all that complicated to do. There are, for me, absolutely pros and cons to living in a vehicle while you're mostly anchored to a place like I am right now in Moab, and also living in a vehicle when you're traveling around. In some ways, logistically, this like lifestyle is a big pro. I love not having a big house to maintain and have a bunch of financial risk in. And then also it's a con to not have a stationary house with a shower and a bathroom that you know are accessible for you, and AC for your dogs, and lots of place to host guests. Some of the just like daily chores of being in this space can be taxing, in particular like just having my smaller volume water tanks. Like I'm continually refilling those and dumping my gray water. There are pieces that I tried to make more convenient for me. So the reason I don't have a toilet is because I just don't want to maintain it. Partially for the space, to open up the space for other things, and also because I just don't want to maintain a toilet. So it's like more convenient to not have to maintain a toilet, but it's less convenient to not have a toilet. So everyone's sort of pro-con cost-benefit analysis on that type of stuff is a little bit different, and this is where I've landed. It also can be really stressful to figure out where to sleep, especially when you are in one place. So like I spent just over a year traveling 30,000 miles with Juniper through pretty much every region of the US with the exception of like New England, which I would like to do someday. And that was actually easier to find places to sleep because you knew that you'd be passing through. So like you can sleep in the Cracker Barrel 1 or 2 nights, but you can't sleep there for a month. But that was fine when you were passing through, but then being in a more stationary place, it's a little bit trickier. I mostly utilize public land around the Moab area, but it's pretty far from town and gas is expensive, so that's tough. But then I also get to sleep in nature like almost every night, and that is incredible. That really, really feeds my soul and really feeds Juniper's soul, so that's absolutely worth it. This little guy is Elvis, another little tiny pup that we have with Underdog Animal Rescue here in Moab. He was also found on the side of the road. He's actually found with a sibling who unfortunately was very sick and passed away shortly after being found. Luckily, Elvis seems to be pretty healthy, so we have high hopes for his growth. Shout out to my coworker Anna, who chose Elvis for this little guy. It's perfect. So kind of the mid section of my van is a little bit of a living space, an extension of some storage and some kitchen stuff. So I built in this little bench seat. This is a Lagoon swivel mount, also a little bit spendy, but super great. This can swivel like this, and then this just happened to work out perfectly that it can swivel under my bed. I would like the table to be able to be a little bit higher and still swivel under, so if I did this again, I would probably plan out those dimensions. Under this bench seat are 2 compartments. The compartments lift up. The left side is extra storage, and then the right side is my heater. So I have a Wabasto, I'm not sure which pronunciation, heater that actually runs directly off of my vehicle's gasoline tank. That is the one thing in the van that I had professionally done. I just felt better about that for safety. It is enclosed right now because I had it installed last winter and this bench seat was not built yet, so it just was able to run freely. And then this spring I enclosed it and built this bench seat, so when winter comes again and I need to use the heater, I'll put in the heat outlet into this front panel. Up here is a little bit of an electrical panel. It's still a little bit of a work in progress, as you can see. This power strip just runs to my inverter and gives me easy outlets that I didn't have to hardwire. I've done several power strips around the van that plug directly to my inverter, and I would do that again. I would not hardwire outlets. This is my heater controller. So this heater is really nice. It was another splurge, but again, definitely worth it. Especially this controller, which operates on a thermostat, so I can set a temperature and the heater will take itself on and off to hold a temperature in the van. So I have 2 100-watt solar panels on the roof. They are from Renogy. Some of my electrical and solar and power components are from Renogy. Some are from Battleborn and some are from Victron. And that's working fine to have a combination of manufacturers. In the future, I might just go with all one manufacturer just for like easier compatibility of multiple components, but I do really like my system now. So I have one lithium ion battery from Battleborn. It is 100 amp hours. It is amazing. I love it very much. Another big splurge. I have a 1000 watt inverter to power appliances. My fridge is from Dometic. I intentionally purchased it from REI. 1, because I like the company. 2, because they have a great 1 year long, for any reason at all, return policy. So this is actually the second unit of this fridge that I've purchased. The first unit was throwing some intermittent compressor related errors just a couple of times over the course of the year that I had it. I just was concerned that it might have been a little bit of a faulty unit. So I actually recently returned my first unit to REI and got another unit. It is dual zone, so either side can be on or off at any time. And then either side can be a fridge or a freezer at any time. So right now I have this side configured as a freezer. I work a ton working in dog rescue, so it's really helpful to have fairly nutritious things in the freezer that I can make really easily. And then this side is configured as a fridge. Yeah, I like it a lot. I do wish that it came with a couple more sub baskets. The fridge just has one big basket and then a center divider, and I wish it had a couple things that I could stack inside. I did not enclose my fridge. This could be enclosed to match this side, and I considered doing that, and maybe I will at some point, but right now I actually really like having my fridge just loose because I can take it out of the van entirely if I want to open up more cargo space. The other day I filled this entire thing with thousands of pounds of dog food to take down to Navajo Nation. So it's really nice to be able to clear this whole space out. When it's just me in here, I have the fridge aligned this way because it creates more open space, in particular for Juniper. But if I have someone else in here with me, I'll swivel the fridge to go perpendicular so that it creates a dinette with this. Right now I work for Underdog Animal Rescue and Rehab. We have a facility just south of Moab. We exclusively serve dogs and families from the reservations of the Four Corners area. I started with the organization as an animal care coordinator, which is kind of the core role of the organization that oversees all of the dogs in our care and then matches dogs with adopters. And now I'm moving into a new role of leading the animal care team and also managing our clinics. We operate free spay and neuter and reduced cost vaccination clinics every month on Navajo Nation. And then I also manage our intakes process. Just this past weekend, we intook, I think, 26 dogs. We have big intakes like that several times a month. We currently have just over 100 dogs at the rescue ranch south of town, and another like 50 or 60 in foster, including 6 single puppies and an injured mama dog that I've personally taken as foster from this past weekend. My job before this was in corporate America with a Fortune 500 company. I'm a bit of a cliche like van life story in that way. I was making very good money and like performing really well at my job, and also entirely unfulfilled, and knew that I wanted to make a change. I had the luxury and the privilege of staying at that job long enough to reduce the majority of my student debt so that I could leave that job and take some time off to travel and then enter the nonprofit sector. Moving into the bedroom area. This is a piece of art / activism poster that I really wanted to have in the van somewhere. The Poudre River is a really amazing river in northern Colorado where I went to college, and this is a environmental activism campaign to protect the river. So I've had this poster for probably 10 years now, and it makes me happy and helps me continue to feel connected to this special place. I do have one other little piece of art up right now. Morgan Harper Nichols is a really incredible neurodivergent Black woman who just does absolutely incredible poetry and spoken word that has always really resonated with me. This van is called Sunflower, Sunny for short. Sunflowers have like a really powerful poetic meaning to me, and she has a really beautiful sunflower piece, so I have that piece up there. This dried lavender is from my Aunt Julie. She teaches at an outdoor preschool in Leavenworth, Washington, and they have this incredible lavender field. And it's kind of in the way, so like when I get in and out of bed, I always knock into it. And at first I thought that was inconvenient, but then I realized it was like spreading little lavender pieces continually, and it's actually a nice little like continual aromatherapy. This is a hook for my keys. There are several things that are really important to me for like a sense of safety and security living in a vehicle solo. One of which is always knowing where my keys are and always having an open front seat. And usually I will park in such a way when I park for the night where if I need to, in the middle of the night, if I wake up and I need to leave in a hurry, I know where my keys are. I can immediately get into my front seat and I can like pull straight out. So these are my like living area and then bedroom upper cabinets. They are also custom built for this space. This one is recessed more than these to try to limit bumping my head. I still have hit my head here several times and it really hurts every time. So I'm thinking of putting like a foam piece or something here. This one is more toiletries, a little bit more utility. I did run a power strip all the way up to this cabinet so that if I want to put like an electric toothbrush in there or like charge my smartwatch, they can like stow away in the cabinet and be charging while they're in there. And then these two uppers are both clothes. So, and I don't have a divider down the middle of this one just to give like maximum flexibility in using the space and stuffing clothes in there. Could probably also use some other containers in here. I've seen people use bins, use like the travel packing cubes. So I'm gonna play around with more of that. So my bed is a full-size bed. It's a foam mattress, so I could squish it in there and didn't have to cut it down at all. I used the like metal IKEA bed rails. That was a tip I saw online, I think in like the ProMaster forum. And then I just framed in the front piece to make it a little more like comfortably finished. Because I have a ProMaster, I can more comfortably sleep widthwise. That was part of the reason that I chose the ProMaster, and that really opens up the space versus needing to orient my bed the other way to sleep lengthwise, I suppose. I built a little bedroom shelf up top that stores reading materials, Juniper's ball. In a campsite that we camp in a lot south of town, Juniper found this ball And every time we would go to that campsite, she would go find it again off in the woods. And then one day I hadn't seen the ball for like several days, and Juniper was digging in the sheets, and I realized that she had stashed it in the bed like several days prior, and we'd just been sleeping with it. So I decided that we could adopt the ball, and now it lives up there. And then I built like a teeny tiny bedside table up in that corner that can hold like 1 mug of coffee or my water bottle. Right now I have my WeBoost internal antenna just like stashed in there. For me, the build process was actually like a very emotional process and undertaking. It's a huge project. It's a ton of new skills that you need to learn and then do again and then redo. And I was so eager to have a finished van and be on the road and be independent in this image that I had in my head, and really pressured myself in the process to like get there. And so once I became honest with myself about that, like, turns out this is a really emotionally taxing process, then I could like support myself and frankly my mental health more through building the van. And that allowed me to then actually complete the van and go on to like travel in the way that I wanted to. The build is also really fun, and I think that's a lot of what is often highlighted online and in media. And so that could feel isolating and discouraging to be like researching to learn building skills online and seeing people talking about their builds and it seeming like a really smooth process for them. And then for me to be experiencing kind of like turmoil within the process. If you're finding that the build experience is intimidating and challenging and like non-linear, I think that's actually really normal. As far as like transitioning from whatever your life is like prior into what you want it to look like in the future, some people have found that it helps them to just like absolutely jump in, make like all the changes at once, like leave their job and change their housing and hit the road, yada yada yada, like kind of all at the same time. I found it to be a better fit for me to kind of like do those things in phases. So I actually bought the van as just like a completely empty cargo van in 2020. Didn't start like really building in any significant way until like 2021. Quit my job somewhere in there, started traveling full-time somewhere in there. So that was really helpful too, to like do it in phases. My garage is pretty minimal. I wanted to keep it super open so that I could use it for like in a variety of ways rather than building in a bunch of storage like bins. My electrical compartment is a visual nightmare right now. That's on the project list to organize that more nicely, but everything is wired safely and functionally and works great for now. This is my bigger wheel well storage. I just boxed it in so that it would be a little more functional than just leaving it unboxed. So storage in there. And then on top, normally I have a bunch of stuff back here in this storage compartment, literally all my possessions. I don't typically do like a storage unit. I emptied out everything I could from the van so that I could use my van for transporting dog food down to Navajo Nation and then bringing some rescue dogs back up this past weekend. So everything is like really nice and open right now, but normally this is full of like seasonal storage, skis, winter tire chains, extra clothes, extra food, extra dog stuff, all that type of deal. I have a WeBoost. That was pretty spendy, but before I had that, I literally didn't have like cellular internet inside of the van because the van being a like metal box blocked signal. So the WeBoost, first of all, brings signal inside of the van and then also amplifies signal in like weak signal areas. So that has been nice to have. I did have a hitch installed. I actually had it done by U-Haul. I've had hitches installed at U-Haul before and it's always been a good experience. So I did the same with the van. I mostly put the hitch on to pull a horse trailer. I actually have 2 horses that live in Washington State with my family. Someday I would love to load the horses up and go on like a long camping trip, camp in the van up in the mountains of Washington State. So far I've just used it to like pull them around town, but that's really handy to have as well. As far as engaging with me personally, I do have an Instagram. I'm very rarely on it. I think I have 2 posts and they're both pictures of dogs. But you can find me there and reach out to me there via message. If you have any questions about the build or the process or just want to say hi, it's at Dyllan Freeberg. It will be in the video description. Underdog does have an amazing Instagram. We are at Underdog Rescue Moab. Yeah, our Instagram account is really great. That's actually how I initially found Underdog. And you can learn all about what we do there. We also have a big link tree with links to our website and other ways to engage with us. You can see details on all of our upcoming events to come interact with us on our website. We really need support in a couple of ways. Financial support is always great. Donations go pretty much directly to the dogs. We usually use donations for special food that the dogs need that we can't get through our regular channels, special medical care. We often take on complex medical cases. We also really need volunteers and foster families. So we operate on a really small staff and we serve a lot of dogs and a lot of people. So you can come volunteer at the ranch anytime. You can apply to be a volunteer on our website. It's a really easy process. Come by and get a dog and take it on a hike. It'll wear an Adopt Me bandana. And we also really need foster families. Little single puppies like this, there's really not a good place for them at the ranch. And when they need a rescue, their situation is often dire. And so it's really, really helpful to have willing foster families like at the ready so that when we encounter single puppies, they can go into foster. We foster with people in Moab and also all over the western slope of Colorado. We're hoping to expand to Salt Lake City and a couple of other areas in the future. We also will foster with van lifers. And we adopt out to van lifers. We'll adopt out to almost any living situation. If you're looking to engage in any way, please just reach out. Instagram is probably the best central hub to then figure out how to contact us. Thank you for watching and coming to see my home and my dog Juniper and our Underdog foster dogs. Really hope to see you on the road or at the ranch sometime. Look us up online.